I'm Scott Allen Miller, and welcome to my daily vlog of life in Nicaragua and living abroad in Central America. Today is a special episode. It's not my daily update, and I'm going to talk about the travel to Nicaragua coming in via Costa Rica. And I'm doing this today because I just did this trip literally 2 days ago, and I think this is a great travel option for a lot of people. It's easy and it's cost effective, and it does depend where you're coming from. I was just coming from the United States, from the Los Estados Unidos, coming from Houston, and from Houston it's absolutely ideal, but for much of the US it's a very good option. Check your flights, check your prices, but it's well worth looking at. So let's talk about first why it's a concern. Why don't you just fly into Nicaragua directly? Right now, flights into Managua are not as good as they traditionally were. This is because between the political problems in 2018 and COVID, a lot of airlines have temporarily, but for a few years, suspended their flights. The amount of tourist traffic coming into Nicaragua is greatly reduced. There are airlines coming in primarily from Miami, Mexico City, Panama City, and San Jose, and San Salvador. All very near airports and only a few airlines. If you want to fly Copa, if you want to fly Avianca, if you want to fly Aeromexico, you're in luck. Those airlines come here from their hubs. If you want to fly anybody else, you have to somehow get to one of those hubs and fly on a partner. It's a lot of extra work. Nicaragua also requires a PCR test to enter the country at this time. Not a big deal, but they have some slightly difficult requirements about when it needs to be sent in and how recently you have to have taken it. It sometimes leaves people with a, how do I even do this and get on a plane? It's not necessarily possible. And if you watch my videos from about 6 to 7 months ago, I have a number where we were trapped in Miami for a week, several days, because Avianca decided just not to file our paperwork with Nicaragua, and we were forbidden to fly, even though we had done all of our paperwork and there was no way to check on it. So there's a lot of complications if you're trying to fly into Managua, but certainly you can, and it's perfectly safe to do so, and it's way more convenient if everything goes well. But the number of flights, the cost of those flights, and the number of things that can go wrong are awfully high. So this leads us to start looking at other airports. Over a year ago, about 14 months ago, Paul and I flew in to Tegucigalpa, Honduras because of this, and drove in. That flight path is complicated. Honduras is not a major tourist destination, so the number of flights are limited. It is much bigger than Nicaragua, however. And Tegucigalpa is not a great destination to fly into, especially if you're not really into airplanes. If you're like me, I actually like it because it's kind of an adventure, but for most people, flying into Tegucigalpa is a little bit scary. It is a mountain airport in the middle of a city. It's downtown. It's considered one of the scariest and one of the most dangerous airports in the world. So it's not for everybody. And getting from that airport to Nicaragua is not easy, and nobody expects it to happen. So even the border crossing is not prepared for you. So we generally don't recommend that one. There is, I will note really quickly, a new airport set to open very soon in Honduras, north of Tegucigalpa, halfway between there and San Pedro Sula. And when that opens, it's going to change everything. And I expect personally that Honduras is going to become a major path into Nicaragua, and one that we will likely use quite a bit because we live so close to the Honduran border. And Honduras typically is much cheaper than Costa Rica and more interesting for me personally, I think. And so I'm very interested in being able to use Honduras as the crossing point because the new airport is more likely to be able to travel to the tourist crossing from Honduras rather than the trucker crossing on the Pan American, which is where we had to cross from Tegucigalpa. Long story short, we don't recommend Honduras as the flight path for Nicaragua at this time, but you can if you need to. Similarly, you could fly into El Salvador and take a bus from there. You could also fly into Guatemala and take a bus from there, but you're starting to get really, really annoying with how far away these airports are. Costa Rica is the expected alternative airport, and their secondary airport, Liberia, is so close to the border that it's almost considered the secondary airport of Nicaragua as well as Costa Rica. It might as well be a shared airport. Half the people, this is not true, a good number of the people flying into Liberia are bound for or coming from Nicaragua, especially those who are in southern Nicaragua, such as San Juan del Sur. They certainly see it as a much closer airport because it's actually closer to them than Managua is. Why Costa Rica? What makes Costa Rica so good? So first of all, Costa Rica is not requiring a PCR test or an antigen test or proof of vaccine. They're requiring nothing. Welcome to Costa Rica. It's that easy. Caveat, they do require a return ticket for whatever you're doing. Be aware, we'll talk about that. So from a vaccine, from a COVID perspective, you can just come into Costa Rica. It's very, very easy. So as a Nicaraguan or someone who's in Nicaragua heading out to Costa Rica, it is an easy drive to the border. From Managua, it's about 2 hours. For me, from León, it's about 4 hours. So that's still not that bad. Drive to the border or take a bus. There are lots of nice bus options. The chicken buses could probably do it, I'm going to guess, for about $10. I know that there are minibuses coming out of León. A friend of ours, Camille, who you've seen on the show, she did it on a minibus for $35. They went all the way to San Jose. I know that there are other buses that do it, like the Tika bus and stuff, I think do it for like $85 on the big buses with all the... So there's lots of options to get there for reasonable amounts of money, and a taxi's only going to be somewhere in the $200 range. And that's from León. If you're coming from Managua, a taxi might be $120, maybe. So getting to the border is not a big deal. Crossing the border is very simple, especially if you're not on a big bus with a big crowd. You need, your passport, and you don't need anything to go into Costa Rica. If you're an American or a Canadian or Brit, just walk into Costa Rica. It's for us, I think it took us maybe 30 minutes, and that's a lot of walking and just going to a lot of booths. Here's our luggage, here's our passport. It's not going to be 5 minutes because it's all outdoors and spaced out, and you got to go between things. It's fast. It's really, really fast and very easy. And you can easily have a taxi waiting for you on the other side if you don't take a bus that takes you through. To get to Liberia from the border crossing, and if you're looking it up, the border crossing is Peñas Blancas. If you go through the border crossing and get a taxi or take the bus, Liberia is the next stop. It is only 90 minutes away. That is very, very close. Practically on the border, and it's a pleasant drive with nothing but a national park or 2 national parks along the way. Look at the scenery, relax, and you're in Liberia. Liberia is a very small city, so if you need to stay in the city, hotels are not very expensive. They're more expensive than Nicaragua, but they're not expensive for Costa Rica. There's a good number of hotels and stuff. Like, this is a city who basically is a tourist logistics center, so it's full of restaurants and hotels and basic things that you need to deal with whatever. If you need to do COVID testing, if you need to get to a veterinary, all those things are there. And so you have the amenities that you need as a traveler of a fair-sized city, but there's no attractions in the city. So no tourists are heading there. It's all people who are just using the airport or passing through or whatever. But it is the main city for the region. So if you need to stay there, and quite often if you're flying, it's advisable, take your time, get there, spend a night, and fly out the next day. That way you're where you need to be. There's no surprises. You don't get stopped at the border and miss a flight, anything like that. Break down and have to wait for a tire change or something. So Liberia is great for that stuff. We like it because it's got a Taco Bell, it's got a Burger King, it's got a McDonald's, it's got a Pizza Hut, a Papa John's, all kinds of American things. Plus there's Indian restaurants and Chinese restaurants and creperias, and a lot of things that are harder to find in Nicaragua are easy to find in Liberia. So for us, coming from Nicaragua after long periods of time, it's very nice to be able to go there and get a variety of food of whatever type, whether it's local or chains, what have you. And being able to stay in the hotels and everything is just a lot of amenities. So stay there and then catch a flight. The airport is small, so you're not dealing with a big city airport with lots of things going on. It's very easy to get to and get around. Southwest flies directly from there to a number of points in the United States. For us, the important one is Houston. That's fantastic. That means the flights are cheap, they are easy, they are often, and they're only 3 hours to get to that point. Southwest goes pretty much everywhere in the US, so as long as you are hopping through one of their places, you're going to end up pretty much anywhere. So you have a lot of flexibility. It's really, really nice. I believe some other airlines from the US fly there as well, perhaps Frontier. I've not done a lot of research on other airlines. I'm not saying that Southwest is the way to go. It's the way that we went. It was perfect for us. In the past, I've flown Spirit into Managua and had great experiences with them. I know a lot of people don't like them, but I've had really good experiences with Spirit, with Frontier, with Southwest. All of those have been very, very good for me. All three of them are big on servicing Central America and much of Latin America now. And with the Frontier Spirit merger, there is a lot more options likely coming from that group. But they currently are not servicing Managua, which is why once they return, Managua is going to be the place that we go almost certainly, because it really is close. So because it's so easy to get out, Costa Rica becomes this really, really great way to go, and it's not going to be very expensive. Returning, it works out even better. You want to be able to get into Costa Rica and not get stuck someplace like the United States or Canada. If you're stuck in the US or Canada, chances are your costs are very high. Food costs are very high, housing costs, your hotels or whatever are going to be very high, COVID testing costs are going to be very high. There's a lot of things to go wrong because you have to get your COVID test, then get on a flight, then make it to the border. Don't do that. You can get a flight into Costa Rica. Now what we did our test in Houston and then flew to Costa Rica. That was kind of a mistake. We were told our insurance would be covered and it would be free. And of course, surprise, surprise, when we ended up at the testing place, it wasn't free, it was $400. Probably would have been better off going to Costa Rica and dealing with stuff, but we were told it was going to be free. But your mileage may vary, and check with your insurance and your testing centers that you know, and they change all the time. Like literally every couple of weeks, it's new testing centers and the old ones are gone. So you never know what your options are going to be until you're doing it. But for us, we tested in the US the day before our flights, flew to Costa Rica, and then immediately took a cab, in our case, into Nicaragua. If you want to, though, and this is generally advisable, be a little bit less in a hurry. We have so many logistics figured out that we felt we could take that risk, and it worked out fine. But if you want to be a little bit safer, fly into Costa Rica where you don't need a test at all. Get into a hotel there in Costa Rica, spend a little bit of money, relax, enjoy Costa Rica, get some food. It's a nice little city. You can walk around. It's very safe. And then you can do your COVID test right there in the city. The Santa Rosa Plaza, very, very close to the McDonald's, Taco Bell, and Burger King, has the San Jose Laboratorios. They can do the testing there. I believe the PCR test is $90, and if you can do the antigen, I think it's like $40. Like, seriously, this is pretty affordable, and it's just the price you pay, right? And you're paying into an economy that could use the money, so it's not a bad thing either. They do the test right there. We got our results when first time we did it in like 45 minutes. Right? Like, that's crazy. Don't bank on that. They don't guarantee that, but that's how fast we got it. They can get you tests really quickly. If you want to try not staying in a hotel, go hang out at a restaurant or a cafe all day, and then if you get your results, hop a bus, hop a car, and head to the border. But if you want to be relaxed, just get a hotel room in the city or a little ways out. Stay in a hotel, wait for your test to come in, get up in the morning and take a bus or a taxi or whatever right to the Nicaraguan border, and you'll have a fresh test. You'll know you've passed it. If anything goes wrong, if your test doesn't come back in time, if your test comes back positive, heaven forbid, if for some reason your paperwork's wrong, you're in Costa Rica. You're sitting by the border. All you have to do is get the things you need and hop across the border. You don't have to worry about the logistics of having something go wrong and then it cascading through multiple things to fail in the future. So it's what I call, so I do business consulting most of the time. It's what I call failing safe. If anything goes wrong, this process gives you the safest way to fail. You're already close to where you need to be. If you need to quarantine somewhere, Costa Rica is better than most other places. And as soon as you're cleared to travel, you just hop across the border immediately. And once you're across the border, you're clear. So I think that that's a great process, and it's very minimally expensive, and it's very, very easy. Costa Rica logistics are just simple. And so I think right now, it is the easiest way to fly in and out of Nicaragua, and it's what we're recommending for most people until such time as either the testing or the flights or both change for Managua, at which time it is going to be way easier to just fly into Managua, and that is what we would recommend, of course, because why do all this extra effort when you can just fly into the local airport? In the future, that will be the thing. For now, really looks like Costa Rica is the way to go, but there are other options. Please ask your questions. Please like, subscribe, share, let people know about the exciting adventure of Nicaragua and this little bit of extra effort. One, gets you another country. If you've never been to Costa Rica, wow, you're gonna get Costa Rica and Nicaragua. Spend a day or two in Costa Rica. It's a nice place, right? I prefer Nicaragua, but Costa Rica is really cool and has very different things. So if you're looking for more resort type activities, more wilderness adventures, zip lining and zoos and biological reserves, Costa Rica is your place, and built up resorts. If you want more beaches and authentic experience in big cities, then Nicaragua is going to be your choice, and much lower cost. Your tourism dollars are going to go massively farther in Nicaragua, but that doesn't mean you should bypass Costa Rica. They are unique and wonderful places. Enjoy both, but fly into Costa Rica, get that as part of your journey, and because of this, Nicaragua has fewer tourists. The effort that you're putting in to get here means that you're coming with fewer other tourists and you get more of Nicaragua to yourself, which is better for you. For most people, it's just attractions are wide open. It also means that you coming to visit is that much more important for our economy here. Every restaurant, every hotel, they are desperate for more people to come. There just isn't that much business in the country, so you can really make a difference. And when everything's open, a lot of people are going to be flooding into the country. That doesn't mean you should avoid it then, but if you put in this little bit of extra effort now, I think you will be rewarded both in an easier journey at this time and in a more exciting destination when you arrive. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you all tomorrow.